We'll begin in about 2 minutes.
So enough time for a quick bathroom break or water.
Yeah, if any panelist has used the bathroom now, I would say go now. We'll start in about 2 minutes. Jeanette, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Romy. Thank you, Travel Unity, for having this incredible panel that is so needed and so necessary. And happy Hispanic Heritage Month, everybody. It's my honor to be a moderator on this phenomenal panel that we have. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists. So panelists, when I say your name, please just wave so that the viewers can know who you are. I had to shorten everyone's bios by a little bit because it's so amazing, but we're short on time. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Hugo Balta. Welcome, Hugo. Hugo is so amazing. He's the premier authority of Hispanics and Latinos in the media. He's an experienced award-winning broadcast and digital news executive. He is also the leading, planning, and producing content and engagement for WTTW. He's also the news director and the host for a new show called Latino Voices. And if that wasn't amazing enough, he's also the current president of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. So thank you, Hugo. Now we will move on to Gabriela Stowell, also known as Gabby. Gabby works on for the Adventure Trade Association, and she's the Latin America and Caribbean Regional Director. She works closely with members and partners in countries across Latin America and for strategic adventure tourism needs. So anything tourism, adventure, she is your girl to go to. And we will go now with Tina Beth Pina. Tina Beth, Tina Beth. Tina Beth is an Emmy award-winning multimedia journalist who's worked on camera and behind the scenes. She has worked for Fox, ABC, the History Channel, Oxygen, just to name a few. But she's also the creator of her own show and the executive producer of Globe Scholars and Latinas. Welcome, Tina Beth. And next is Angel Castellanos. Angel, thank you for being here. He's also known as the Travel Ambassador. He is a multimedia travel expert who's appeared on BBC News, Los Angeles Times, Fox News, and he's always a speaker at the New York Times Travel Show and the Travel and Adventure Show. And he just got back from Turkey. So thank you, Angel. Next is Jessica Van Dop de Jesus. Jessica, she is the founder of The Dining Traveler, and she's also a travel media specialist. She's an author, a blogger, and her book, The Dining Traveler's Guide to Puerto Rico, is out. So definitely take a look for her amazing book. Now we'll go to Olga Maria. Olga, where are you at? Yoo-hoo! Olga is a professional travel writer, storyteller, full-time digital nomad. I saw Olga at the Hispanic Size Conference, I believe in Miami, speaking on a panel years ago. She's also the founder of Dreams and Heels and Latinas Who Travel. So welcome, Olga. And Monica Ortega. Monica is joining us from Colorado. And Monica is the adventure also guru. She's a travel host and actress. She has a show called Monica Goes. Definitely check her out. She's been featured everywhere from USA Today to Matador Network. So definitely keep an eye out for Monica. Christina Alquivar. Christina, thank you for joining us. She's the founder of Vane Airport Media, a Canadian media company that publishes the latest about health and travel, global airports, and healthy food and trends. So welcome, Christina. Next, we have Joe Rodriguez. Joe, hey. Fun story. Joe and I used to work at Fox Sports in Los Angeles many years ago. Those are good times, right, Joe? Now, Joe is a journalist and he's the founder and the head content of Mexican Soccer Media Company. He's also a world traveler and full of expertise and a lot of knowledge. And we have Fredelinda Peña. Fredelina is the founder of We Are Out Latinas, on a mission to solidify the presence of Latinos in the travel community. Thank you, Fredelina. And last but not least, we have Cindy, who is the co-founder of the Adirondack Diversity Solutions, human resource specialist, over 10 years of experience, has, full of knowledge. And whew, see what I mean, you guys? Your bios are too amazing. I have to shorten them. But we'll go ahead and get started with this amazing panel because I want you all to have enough time to speak and then Q&A for our viewers. We'll just start off with some statistics to get us going. So according to the latest statistics by the US Census Bureau, there's an estimated 60.6 million Hispanics within the United States. Now, we make up about 18.5% of the population. And this is something that I personally and professionally have seen is the lack of Hispanic and Latino representation within the travel industry. Now we're in 2020 and I still personally have not seen much progress. Again, that's my experience, but we're here to hear your experiences and to amplify your voices. We also contribute, I believe it was $1.73 trillion to, that is what our value has been estimated by the Hispanic Star. So we bring so much to the table. We have, I believe now it's the time for people and the general public, the travel community to hear our voices. So, with that being said, I'm just going to go and ask, and if everyone could keep your responses to about 2 minutes so that everyone has a chance, equal chance to speak. We'll go ahead and get started with Joe. Joe, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your Hispanic or Latino heritage?
I'm extremely blessed to have had that opportunity.
Joe, can you raise your audio up? We're having trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello.
Okay, we'll go ahead, Joe. While you do that, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll come back. So, Gabby, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your Hispanic or Latino heritage?
Sure. I am actually Brazilian. I lived my whole life there. I started as a guide in the Pantanal in Brazil. I was 19. Never left the travel industry. My degree is like ecology. I come from a biology degree, but I was very passionate about taking people to nature and communities so they would understand and respect it. So when very young, I fell in love with the idea of guiding people to places because I think we care when we actually, understand places. When you say, oh, the Amazon is burning, it's far away, I don't know. Or people say soccer field size is burning every day. I can't imagine that. But after I visited a place, I care more. So I got more involved. So that was my passion. And I moved a lot inside Brazil and worked in many, many places, hotels, small tour operators, always in adventure nature travel. And then I moved to the US in 2012. And then since then, I've been working as the director for the Adventure Travel Trade Association, which is a global community of adventure travelers. And also, it's nature-based too. It's not only, sometimes we say adventure, people think we're talking about extreme, but it's the biggest tendency is soft adventure. So we are the global community for that. We do events, training, everything to help this community grow because we believe that nature and adventure travel is a very good type of tourism, leaving more money in the destination, helping the local communities and not impacting negatively nature and communities. So that's it.
Gabby, next we'll go to Alma, my apologies. Alma is here joining us as well, and she is the founder of Paper Planes and Alma Explores. Alma, can you tell us in your own words a little bit more about yourself and your Hispanic or Latino heritage?
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Alma, and I am a first generation Mexican American born in Los Angeles. My parents are both from Jalisco, Mexico. I guess they've been here most of their life. I have been working in the event space for most of my life, and now I'm actually trying to make a career change into the travel space, which has always been my passion. But, I know we're always trying to figure out like the best way to, quit your job and figure out a way to monetize what you love. So I've started a company called Alma Explorers to get more content for, Latinos, or not even just Latinos, just all people of color, all underrepresented communities who are interested in travel and also, doing some curated tours. And I'm trying to figure it out along the way. It's not completely, done yet. It's a work in progress, but I need to get it started. And I'm thankful for Jeanette to have me here.
Thank you, Alma. We're really grateful to have you here too.
Thank you.
And next we'll go to Hugo. Hugo Balta, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your Hispanic or Latino heritage?
I think that's a great way to start this conversation because too often, and all of us can have stories around this, we're put into one bucket as if whether it's Hispanic or Latino, we're all the same. We know when we meet each other, we don't say, hi, mi nombre es Hugo Balta, I'm a Hispanic or I'm a Latino. I'll tell you where I trace my roots. And I'm a very proud Peruvian American, son of immigrants from Peru. One of the things in the long list, in the 3 points that you made in the beginning, which I thought was excellent, I would add, I'm also bilingual, bicultural. And that's something very unique in the United States. We have a robust number of English and Spanish speaking members of the Hispanic and Latino community. And while proficiency in language varies, it is still one of the ways that we self-identify. So, and it's also in the context of what we're talking about, a very important nuance as we're reaching different markets, because the Hispanic Latino community is not a monolithic group. There are nuances in our background. There are nuances where we live. A Hispanic Latino on the East Coast is very different than a Hispanic Latino on the West Coast. And of course, also language. So as we're formulating stories, strategizing business models, language is very important. And I think one of the underserved communities within that 60 million plus are bilingual, bicultural Hispanic Latinos.
Incredible. Thank you, Hugo. Gosh, I'm so excited to have you all on here. Now let's go to Monica. Monica, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I was like, please don't choose me because I don't speak Spanish. No, so I'm Mexican American, and I am definitely that group that grew up in the middle. So I'm from Michigan. So I was pretty much the only Mexican in my area. But I grew up in Michigan. I lived in Tennessee, used to sing country music, lived in Los Angeles to do acting. And I started my travel show, Monica Goes, 5 years ago, because I really wanted to show people that if an everyday average person like me can do these adventures and face my fears, that anybody can do it. And then as I was doing that, I noticed that there wasn't a lot of people that look like me, especially in the outdoor space. So it's been sort of a new thing for me to kind of bring in my culture and bring in my heritage and talk about that and identify that way, and something that maybe just didn't come naturally at the beginning. So I'm really excited to be on this panel and learn from all of you as well.
Thank you, Monica. We're so excited to have you on this panel. Now let's go to Joe. Let's see, Joe, are you good on audio?
All right, can you guys hear me? I just want to make sure you guys hear me.
Okay, yeah, just now tone it down just enough.
Oh, okay, hold on a second.
Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself and your Latino or Hispanic heritage.
Okay, I'm Mexican American, born in Guadalajara, Mexico, and I was fortunate that my mother actually decided to make the journey up here to the United States. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I made the move to Bristol, Connecticut for a job change, worked at ESPN with Hugo. But one of the things that I learned while at ESPN is that, unfortunately, when it comes to content for Latinos, Mexican Americans, big corporations don't necessarily put a lot of their resources and efforts towards that. So my idea of El Tri Online came out of that through my experiences at ESPN. Not to necessarily bash at ESPN, but the reality is that most of the corporations, I think there's like a lot of foresight. You know, they lack the vision that millions and millions of Hispanic and Latino Americans are bilingual, bicultural, but most importantly, English dominant, which means and translates to them consuming their language, their content in English. So I saw this as an opportunity to not only serve my community, but also make sure that I made an impact, in the field of journalism and sports. But here's the one thing that a lot of people don't understand: Mexicans travel like crazy when it comes to sports. They follow the Mexican national team, and I'm talking about by the bunches. So a lot of educated Mexican Americans with disposable income go to many parts of not just the United States but the world. There was about 60,000 Mexicans in Russia in the 2018 World Cup. So it's just incredible, and that's one of the things that I want to continue to do, is just show the stories of all these Mexican passionate soccer fans.
Amazing. Thank you, Joe. Now we'll move on to Christina. Christina, tell us a little bit about yourself and your Mexican heritage or Latino heritage. Yeah, you're on mute. No worries. Christina, while you find that, we'll go ahead and move to with Angel. Angel, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your Hispanic or Latino heritage.
Sure, no problem. Hey, everyone. I'm Angel Castellanos. I have a website called angelstravellounge.com. And my goal is to help everyone travel better and smarter. So I really help people's travel dreams come true. And the way I do that is through my writing, through producing content, through my public speaking engagements. I also just wrapped up the first season of my TV show, Hotspots. And I'm very proud to say that we did shoot in Latin America. We shot in Honduras and 2 episodes in Colombia. And yeah, I come from a pretty mixed Latino and Hispanic heritage. And, I'm a 2nd-generation American. English is not my first language, like many of you. And I grew up having a passport before I could read or write. And my parents really gave me that love of travel. And then when it was finally time for me to start my own business and my own companies, there was no question that it was going to be travel related. So it was really my dad who kind of helped focus in all of my talents and help me, kind of make up all those streams of revenue that were going to be able to make me successful in the travel industry. And now I've kind of leveled up to really focus in on sustainable travel. And the brands that I mostly deal with are, I would say, 60% in the US. So those are my focuses now. And thank you so much for having me on this panel, because I really think it's an important discussion. And like some of you have said earlier, sometimes I'm the only person of my ethnicity in the room. And that's kind of shocking, because as a traveler, you're being in a multicultural, multiracial environment.
Amazing. Thank you, Angel. Now we'll go back to Christina. Christina, hi. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and your Latino or Hispanic heritage.
My name is Christina Alcivar, and I am a Canadian Ecuadorian. I was born in Ecuador, and I've lived in Ecuador many times as a teenager and as a child, but primarily in Canada, in Toronto, where I'm based. And my love of travel is I've traveled everywhere extensively, but my focus is on health and wellness at global airports, because we love to travel, but airports are really not that amazing. But there's all these amazing things in airports. So I decided 4.5 years ago to start producing content around these different types of wellness finds inside of airports, specifically focusing on healthy food finds, airport therapy dogs inside of airports. In the United States, there are currently 72 airports that have therapy dog programs roaming inside of airports where you can pet them. In 2019, 15 airports in the United States launched therapy dog programs, and people that love dogs or pets in general give people the sense of well-being. So we focus on therapy dogs where you can find them, where you can connect with them. In addition to that, airport spas, yoga rooms, meditation rooms from around the world. And that's where I've been focusing on the consumers facing side and now launching on the business side of airport commercial planning and integrating wellness into their plans.
Thank you, Christina. Now we're going to move a little quicker. Sorry, guys, we want to get through all the amazing questions we have for you. So we'll move on to Jessica. Jessica, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your Hispanic or Latino heritage.
Hi. Well, I grew up between upstate New York and Puerto Rico. I grew up in a town called Guayama in the southern coast of the island, and both of my parents are originally also from Puerto Rico, and so it's like the two extremes, right? And I joined the Marine Corps when I was 18 years old, and I've been, when people are like, so how do you get to travel so much? And I'm like, your taxpayer dollars. But I had the opportunity to be stationed in Japan, in South Korea, Germany. I also, as a civilian, lived in Belgium working for NATO. So had these amazing opportunities to work around the world, and 10 years ago started writing about them with first as an Adventures of a Puerto Rican Girl in Brussels. That was like my OG blog name, and I've continued to write about my adventures. Now I'm blogging full time, writing full time. And I'm also in the food space as well. And during this pandemic, I've been pivoting and started the Dining Traveler Cooking Series, where I try to make some of my favorite international dishes at home. So that's been a lot of fun.
Amazing. So amazing, Jessica. Thank you. Now we will segue to Cindy. Cindy, tell us a little bit about yourself and your Hispanic or Latino heritage.
Sure. My name is Cindy Rodriguez, and I am proudly part Mexican and part Salvadorian. I was born and raised in the States. I grew up in Los Angeles and Colorado, and now I'm based in upstate New York. Shout out to upstate New York and Los Angeles back there. I grew up traveling frequently to my parents' home countries. Because of that, I also, like you, Jeanette, didn't see any representation, right? I saw myself in the destination brochure as one of the features of Latin America, but not the consumer, right? And so for me, it was all about access. Today, my ambitions far exceed access, and it's more about engagement and contributions and collaborations.
Amazing. Thank you, Cindy. And we go to Tina Beth. Tina Beth, tell us a little bit about yourself and your Latino or Hispanic heritage.
Sure. My name is Tina Beth Pina. I was born and raised in Easton, Pennsylvania, which at the time didn't really have any Hispanic Latinos at all. My mom's from Puerto Rico, my dad's from the Dominican Republic, and growing up, I was the one that was not like the other all throughout school, grade school, high school, and college. And I was fortunate enough to be given the love of travel from my parents, from not only going back to their home countries, but also being able to travel with them, whether they went on business or for pleasure. That opened my eyes to travel. And once I graduated from school, I knew I wanted a career in television because like all of you, I wasn't seeing myself represented. And I made it my mission pretty much since the day I graduated to make sure that not only were we represented, but anyone of any diverse background would get represented on television. And the more and more I learned and the more and more I grew in television, I just started capitalizing upon those moments when they came my way. And then I realized a couple of years ago, I'm like, I can continue working for the companies that I work for, or I can also try and start something myself. Because a lot of my bosses the majority of my bosses have not been of Latino origin or of any minority origin. So that's what prompted me to start Globe Scholars, because I wanted to have minority representation on TV. And the best way for me to do that was through PBS. So although I have my full-time job and I do a show there called Latinas purposely, I created this other show in the travel space to get minority representation out there. And that's just pretty much been my mission.
Gosh, I'm so inspired by all of you. So let's keep it going. We're going to introduce our last two panelists, Fredelinda. Fredelinda, can you tell us about yourself and a little bit about your Hispanic or Latino heritage?
Hi, good afternoon, because I'm in New York. This afternoon here. Hope everybody's doing well. Everybody's fine with the pandemic and everything that's going on around the world. So my name is Fredelinda. My parents are Dominicans. And I, grew up and was raised in New York. One of the advantages that I had growing up as a Latina, that every summer my parents would send me to the Dominican Republic. And for 2-3 months, when I was a child, I didn't see the benefit of that. But now that I'm older, I realized that's the best thing because it kept me connected to my roots. And it kept me with the language, with my family in the Dominican Republic, especially with my grandmother. So that it kept that connection. So then being raised in an American culture and being in an environment at work that's predominantly non-Latino, I get to bring that, I would say that's a song to the environment. And they look at me like, no matter, like she's still keeping up with her roots, her heritage, and it's very important. So due to that, to me, I travel a lot. I travel to a lot of countries. So most of the time I was majority of the time I was the only Latina. So it was there was not a connection saying that, a lot of people where you from? They were curious at what part of the world I was from. And they, you could say oh, it's not a lot of Latinos that we see to travel. So because of that, after traveling to to different countries, every time that I landed in JFK, I always go back to the rice and beans. No matter if I was in Thailand, no matter if it was in Africa, every time I would just get off the airport and I would drive and I was I need my rice and beans because, the food in Paris is amazing. The food in Thailand is delicious, but there was something going back to my roots. And because of that, I created a platform, a community for Latinas, which is called We Are Latina, to bring them back to their roots. Because we want to make a lot of changes, especially in the future. There's going to be a lot of changes globally. But our base, my opinion is we have to start at the roots. And it's just getting to know where we come from, what is the current status with our culture, and what we're going to do with that to impact the future of Latinos. So that's the reason why I started that platform. And it's the Mexicans in Mexico are not the same, the Mexican American in the United States. And those changes has been a lot. So it's I have interacted with my community and they were I didn't know they do that in Mexico. I had a virtual chat with my community. I'm oh, but I didn't know that was a Mexican. I'm Mexican. So there's a gap that needs to be filled as to what are our roots and things that we need to cherish. We have a lot of things that are amazing, but now it's time to to celebrate it.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Fredelina. Now we'll go to Olga Maria. Olga, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your Latino and Hispanic heritage?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Olga Maria. I'm a small town girl from Bayamón, Puerto Rico. I was born in New York, but my mom took me as a baby to Puerto Rico and I was raised there. So my first language is Spanish. And my dad is from Cuba. So I'm Cuban and Puerto Rican, very proud. And I started I moved to New York again when I was 18 years old. And that's when I started learning really English. And I eventually started going to university and I started my career eventually as a travel writer. I was inspired a lot because I always loved writing since I'm a little kid. And I was inspired a lot by a professor that told me that you can always learn grammar, but you can never learn perspective. And he told me I had a very unique perspective. And I was very afraid about writing in English because English was not my first language. And now it is crazy because I've been published in many magazines, from in-flight magazines to print to the New York Daily News and everywhere. And I also started my blog, Dreams in Heels, 8 years ago. And I started it because I wanted to inspire people to travel more, to get out of their comfort zone, and to live life to the maximum in whatever shoes they're comfortable in. And I'm comfortable in heels. I have a leg condition. I cannot walk flat. I walk on my tippy toes. I have the Achilles tendon short. And that's why I named my blog Dreams in Heels, because I was bullied a lot as a kid. And I wanted to inspire, especially, of course, other women to, like, walk in whatever shoes they're comfortable in. And after traveling so much through my work, I realized that I didn't meet as many Latinas, same as everyone else. And I looked for a group online to like join, or something that I could connect with more Latina travelers, and I could not find it. So I started back almost 5 years ago, the private Facebook community Latinas Who Travel, Latinas Que Viajan. And my brand is a sisterhood to empower and connect more Latina travelers, so we can share our perspective and our tips with other Latinas and inspire them to get out there, to get to see the world. And we repost Latina travelers on our Instagram. And so that's like the second brand I created it, because I felt that the travel industry was very white and I did not see as much diversity in it.
Amazing. Thank you, Olga. So for time's sakes, we're going to go a little quicker so we can get as many of you to respond to these questions. So if you can keep your responses maybe 30 seconds or so now, so we can get as many of you to speak. I'll go ahead and segue to our next question. Whether traveling within the USA or abroad, what have been any stereotypes or misconceptions that you've experienced as a Hispanic or Latino traveler? And yeah, well, go ahead, Alma, you go first.
Yeah, when I read the question on the prep stuff, I thought about immediately that not just as a Latina, but I feel like when you travel, people, if you're not white, they automatically assume that you're not American. So in a lot of countries, they associate the word American with being Caucasian. And the truth is that we come from all over the world in all shapes and sizes and colors. And people still don't know the difference between ethnicity and citizenship, right? So if you were born here, if you have an American passport, you're obviously an American citizen, you're an American. But my parents being, from Mexico, my origins and my ethnic background is Mexican. So I consider myself a Mexican American. However, when I travel and they ask you, oh, what are you? Where are you from? I'm American. Oh, you don't look American. So for me, that's the main thing that people I would experience when I'm traveling, is people associating American with Caucasian versus anything else.
Amazing. Thank you, Alma. And Joe, what's your take on that? What's been your
It's got to be something similar to that. Just of where you're from, like the questions of like, oh really, you're Mexican or you're American. So it's just the discrimination that you kind of face. It's really unfortunate, because though we're a very diverse country, I find that it's just very hot and very common. And those are the type of things that we just have to continue to work on. But I have to echo that. It's pretty much the same thing.
Christina, what do you think?
I think there's a generalized assumption, at least in my experience, when I say I'm a Latino, they think Mexican food. I think there's a culinary experience, at least for me. And there's so many things that so many different countries eat. Like, I know Dominican Republic, chicharrón de pollo. We have seco de pollo. Everybody has a different culinary take. And we don't just eat rice and beans and tacos. I always feel, for me, my approach is, and also the language, like if you're from Spain, or if you're like the language of the Spanish speaking language tongue versus Mexican, I get a lot of identification with Mexico as a generalized Latino window in the United States, primarily in North America.
Thank you, Christina. Ugo, what's your take?
Oh, look, similar experience as everyone else, but I think at the core, the problem is the lack of representation and inclusion of Hispanic Latinos in media. And so for non-Hispanic Latinos, it's very confusing. Media uses the word Hispanic, others use Latino, and there's sometimes are used interchangeably. And so Hispanic is about language, right? So everyone who comes from a Spanish-speaking country or predominantly Spanish-speaking country or trace their roots considers himself Hispanic. Latino is more about geography. So everyone that lives from Mexico all the way to Argentina is considered a Latino, a Latina, Latinx. And so you can be a Spaniard. A Spaniard is a Hispanic, but not a Latino, and a Brazilian is a Latino, but not Hispanic. So there's so much confusion. And then because of a lack of representation, that then continues to percolate. And so when stories are produced, they're lacking that authenticity because they're being produced by people who see us as the other, who see us as the foreigner. And so it's always from the perspective of someone that automatically, based on some of their unconscious bias, some of it, I think, also willful ignorance, is looking at us as if we can't be from the United States because we look different, because we speak as we're not monolith, we're not we're bilingual, bicultural. So I think at the core of everything that everyone is describing is, again, to the point of this session, the need for diverse voices and specifically Hispanic Latinos in media and including the travel industry.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Hugo. And Gabby, it looks like you wanted to say something. What do you want?
No, just Hugo was spot on because like I am Latina and I speak Portuguese as my, I do speak Spanish too, but that's the point. They put us all in a bucket and food is different. But I want to raise another topic, what I think is very important for all, and especially for women and women in the tourism industry. It's a very, male-oriented industry. It's really hard to have our voice really heard. It's really hard to have the respect. I got a lot of, you're somebody's wife, it's people are worried about how you look, or they have that image that us Latinas are, they think that's hot Latina woman thing. And then like, we are all intelligent, we are all amazing women with stories. And then they're too worried about, how we look. And it's really hard to get our voice and respect that. On the decision-making level, governments, politicians, ministries, presidents of companies, it's a lot of white males, and and then when they hear you are from Latin America and me Brazilian, they sexualize us. If they think that every Brazilian wants to make love with anybody at any time, anywhere. I had that experience, and also they don't listen to us. They're like, oh, you're supposed to look cute. That's what you Brazilians do, So very macho-oriented industry still, very non-diverse still, very sexualized still. So I'm very honored to be here with this space for us to talk about our diversity. You guys are all incredible. Look at our backgrounds. Look at all these amazing people. And I actually didn't know a lot of you guys. So thanks for the opportunity to bring us together and let our voices be heard. And don't sexualize us just because we're Latinas.
Yes, well said.
Can I add?
Yes, go ahead, Tina.
The one thing that I've always find interesting too is when I travel, I confuse people before I open my mouth. So even among Latinos, there's Latinos who speak about me in Spanish in front of me because they don't even realize I'm Hispanic. So sometimes we can't point the blame at other cultures. So lots of times it's within our own communities that they don't even know. I've been identified as the help. I've been identified as crew on a cruise ship. I've not a traveler, but as one of the dancers or something. I've been identified different ways depending on what country I'm in. So sometimes it's not a matter of, oh, I didn't think you were American because you don't look like this. Sometimes in certain countries, they'll think I'm from that country and they'll start speaking to me in that language. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying. And it's not, they're speaking to me in French, or they're speaking to me in Indian, they're speaking to me in these different languages. I'm like, I don't know. Or like I said, I just confuse people. And I think lots of times we have to put that out there too, and not always point the blame at other cultures looking at us the wrong way. Sometimes we look at each other the wrong way. Just because if you look at everybody on the panel now, we all look so different. When we all say, oh, I didn't see anybody that looked like myself on TV. Well, look at us. Clearly, like Hugo was saying, we're not monolithic. We all look different. We all have a different background. Not all of us speak Spanish. Not all of us speak more than 2 languages. Some of us just speak English. So it goes with all that too. And I think that's something that everyone needs to consider, whether you're Latino or not. I just wanted to throw that out there.
I want to say something.
Go ahead. Fredelina, then we'll go to you, Monica.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't want to interrupt. You know, I want to point something out, and this is my observation of 2 years interacting with the industry and having this platform. We cannot always focus what other people are not doing for us. This needs to stop. Like it needs to stop, to the sense that let's divert the focus on us. Who is going to be good at providing blog or content about food? Who's good at providing content about Mexico, Brazil, and come together as a unity, as a unit, and say, you know what, we can exchange value and represent us and say, yeah, that was the time that the people, and there are people, we cannot control how people think of you. That's very impossible. But when I have travel and people come out with, it's basically ignorance. It's people who are not exposed. It's people who are not to take their time to learn about the people, or they think about their cultures is superior. So when I travel, I say, you know what, out of kindness, if you're willing to listen, we could have a discussion. There's nothing wrong of having a conversation, but let's start as Latinos or Hispanic, however you identify yourself, and say, you know what, let's build a network, because we need a network of unity, and start producing those content. So like the people that I want to aspire to travel and be in the industry, or the people who are not known in the industry, like a community, as Latino, they could say, you know what, I want my attention in the travel industry. I want to look into my culture. I want to identify with a Mexican American. You know, it's time for us to start doing that. And that's the only way things are going to change.
Thank
you.
you.
And I'm glad, if I can interject, Fredelina, I'm like, yes, I'm like, preach, because, you know, all the stuff that you said. And, you know, and first of all, thank you, Jeanette, for bringing us all together, because I don't think that I've witnessed like so many Latinos in the travel industry in the same place. And I do agree. And I hope that something comes from this panel, that we can get together and collaborate together and promote each other's work. You know, like I met Tina Beth last year, and every time I see her videos, I'm like, yes, and I comment and I share. And I think that, you know, this is what we, you know, and I have to say, I love, you know, I know a lot of Black creators, and they do that, and they support each other, and they comment on each other's photos, and, you know, and they're so tight knit. And I wish we had that, you know, also in our Latino community, because, you know, we have, like, you know, Jeanette said, we have 60 million people, 60 million Latinos here in the United States, you know, there's room for all of us, you know, and we have Puerto Rican and Mexican and Brazilian and different languages. We have Spanish dominant, English dominant, we have different regions. So there's a room for everybody to make a living in this industry. And if we work together, and, you know, and if some assignment comes your way, and, you know, I've like, you know, people reach out to me, can you write this, or can you do that? No, I can't, but here, you know, I can give it to a colleague of mine, and, you know, and create a database of Latinos, and how we can help each other out and help each other promote our work.
I love that. Thank you, Jessica. And this is one of the primary purposes for this panel, was to gather all you phenomenal, talented, you know, Hispanic, Latino contributors, not just to the travel industry, just in general, but to have these important discussions. How can we emerge stronger and more united, you know, like Jessica was saying, like Fredelina was saying, like Tina Beth, together, and to have more representation in the travel industry, which like many of your experiences as a young girl, I didn't see anyone that looked like me, which propelled me to pursue this career, dedicated my whole life to this mission. So it's an honor to be here with you. We're going to segue to the next question. So how can we, as the Hispanic community and Latino community, how can we improve the representation of Hispanics in the travel industry? And if so, what can we tell the travel professionals, the travelers, travel brands, and just the general public? Who would like to go first?
I'd like to go first, and I want to build on what Fredelina said, because I think it's so powerful. and then let others who are much more expert than I to focus on travel. I think that we are beyond just asking for a seat at the table. Because of technology, and a lot of people in this group are representative of it, because of technology and because of what we have between our ears, we can build our own table. We don't need it. We don't need a seat at the table. We can build our own table. And so I second what Frederlinda was sharing. Now, also, again, to what she said about support, I think it's important for the people in this panel and others to collaborate, because I think in collaboration, what we build is a much stronger foundation for growth. You know, Joe and I are collaborating. He has his independent outlet focused on the El Tri fans, and as he said, focused in English language. I'm the owner of Latino News Network, focusing on Latinos in New England in English. And I would love to feature all of your work on our outlets. And I think that's how we start to chip away at what we know are problems in media by using what we have in front of us, including the people resource, to be able to reach farther than we can on ourselves individually, but collectively we can do so much more. So I think that's part of the solution. It's to stop thinking about just legacy media, but creating our own spaces, our own tables, and collaborating and really lending our platform to elevate the conversations that each of you are doing in your particular space. I think that's exciting. I think that's the future. And I think that's what's needed more than anything else.
Thank you, Hugo. Yes, go ahead, Monica.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly touch on the last one too, and then into this. But so I feel like I have kind of a different experience because I did, grow up in the Midwest, speak English, like all those things. My dad was born in Mexico. My mom is blonde hair, blue eyes. So I've experienced a lot of stereotypes on both sides. I always felt like because I was mixed, I wasn't white enough with the white people and I wasn't Mexican enough with the Mexican people. And when I moved to Los Angeles, I experienced a lot from the Latino community that were angry because I didn't speak Spanish, that would talk about me behind my back. And so there wasn't that platform, and it made me almost step further back and not want to get into that community. And that's where I think we do need these platforms and we need to have these conversations, because I think there are a lot of people, especially in America, that are like me, that maybe are half and half and don't really feel like they fit somewhere. And then I think within the travel space, I never really identified myself as anything. I was just Monica. And then as I got into the outdoor world and started going to conferences and started going to panels like this and hearing about the different communities, I realized that I do have a different perspective as a Mexican American outdoors person. And I had people commenting, and it's like, oh, if there's little girls that can see you can camp and hike and also have brown skin, like that there's a place for that, and that I need to be more comfortable using my voice in that space too. And I think that gives other people permission to identify themselves that way too and feel more comfortable and build this platform. So that's it.
Thank you, Monica. Angel, what's your take?
Well, I loved what Hugo said about just, really facilitating each other and working together. And that can be as easy as, a comment, a share, and to really actively promote each other's work in addition to all the recommendations. But I think too, we really have to stand up to the people that we work with and have business relationships with, because oftentimes, they're the ones who are trying to sort of dilute who we truly are. I've had many people try to stop me from speaking Spanish or anglicizing my name completely and mispronouncing my name, which I think just does a disservice not only of who I am, but the message that I'm trying to bring. So I think collectively, once we make an effort to really stand up to these brands and say, hey, you got to let us tell these stories, or you got to put this face forward, then we're really trying to make a stand. And thank you to Frederlinda for really leading in with the fact that we have to create our own work first.
Yes.
I want to add one little thing that you said right now, Angel. At the beginning, they're not going to let you do it. Why? Because they're not used to people, human nature, they always gonna put priority to their own kind. That's human nature. I don't know if by some design we are created that. So at the beginning, when we're starting out, we have to create our own platform and network. And they are not going to do it. Maybe they're going to pick one out of us, and whoever they think is going to be the right image that's going to so-called represent a Latino. And you know how that goes. It's not even close. So when you build an economy, or the science of building an economy, you have to build something that the market is going to say, you know what, they bring in value. And that value, you're going to exchange it. And when you exchange it, then you're going to represent. So it's a ecosystem of creating a market. And that should be that's the norm. And that should be our approach.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you, because one of the prompts, one of the questions is about the value that our community brings. And there's so much diversity and there's so much economic power. Many of us have immigrant backgrounds, and there's no better travel story than that. And, a lot of times people ask me, well, Angel, you've been to like 85 countries and you've never been ripped off. Why is that? Well, it's because I would be ashamed to tell my father, after all that he taught me, he would say, por hacer pendejo, and that's just the truth of it. And I think we need to bring a lot of that to the forefront in our relationship. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
One thing I'd like to add, though, is even though they'll say, oh, yeah, I'm on. I thought I was muted. One thing I'd like to add is, even though, Carolina, you were saying that people won't allow you to do it, that's never stopped me. Just because they say no doesn't mean I don't do it. I find another way. I've always, my entire career, have found another way. That one door opens, that window, is it nailed shut? Because if it's not, I'm gonna get it open. That's how
that's the fire of the Latinos. That's the fire of the Latina. That's the fire that they need to see. We have a lot of fire, and we have, in my community, I seen girls, they're afraid. And I see the talent. It's just, how can I, it's just it's taking me longer, to be honest. It's taking me longer to see the transformation, because you cannot push people. You cannot implement your ideas on them, because you have to respect people's boundaries. But we have fire. We have a lot of things.
Yes, I'm so inspired by you guys. Yes. Okay, we haven't heard from Cindy yet. So Cindy, what is your take?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the points that have been said. Definitely need to support each other, create paths for our youth. I think, it's important, as we're kind of creating our own path, that we're creating stepping stones for those that come, in future generations, and keeping doors open for them as well, right? And then to Angel's point, holding our industry and organizations accountable as well, right? It starts with the industry and organizations acknowledging that they have neglected the Latino, Hispanic communities and communities of color at large. And then, what do we do to move forward with that, right? It's acknowledging, it's having intentionality to engage. It's educating ourselves as organizations as to how to create an inclusive environment. It's engagement, it's collaborations, like Joe said. And quite frankly, there's 13 community leaders here in this industry. And, the opportunities are endless when we start asking questions and engaging, and not only, letting folks sit at the table, but ensuring that the environment at that table is conducive to asking questions, to speaking. Are you hearing what people are saying, right? Are you acknowledging them? And more importantly, do you support their ideas, and do their votes count equally? So I think, it starts with organizations, our industry, each other. And then also setting forth a path for future generations as well.
Can I say something? Because I want to really quickly echo what Cindy just spoke about. And I think one of the things that we fail to acknowledge sometimes is the lack of opportunities that we have as Hispanic Americans. A lot of us don't have the opportunities to go to school, to go to college, because we don't have the financial resources, because we don't have parents that can help us take our SATs, help us with our homework, and among other things. And opportunities is the thing that actually allows us to get to that next stepping stone. And she's absolutely right. We have to hold companies accountable, whether it's the companies that are creating the content. Leadership is an important place, right? They're the decision makers that are getting more and more people like us. Hugo said it just a moment ago. We're far asking about, having a seat at the table, but at the same time, if these companies are going to remain the dominant ones, we need to break that mold as well, But for me, it's important that if we're not breaking that mold, we have to create something. We have to look for people like us. We have to unite. We have to stop the bullshit of being jealous of each other and envious of each other. We have to learn to live with each other, collaborate, look at la raza, look at the people that are like us, and help each other out. Help us all come forward, come together collectively, and then hold those businesses accountable, the ones that are looking at our spending power, because that's the one thing that also we don't do enough. The spending power that Latinos have is just incredible, and that's what we need to use in our advantage. So we have to look at the tools and the resources that we have and use that to our advantage as well.
Speaking of the value that we bring, it's been estimated that the value is 1.7 trillion of the value that we bring. We bring so much to the economy. We contribute so much. So why are we not getting the same opportunities as others, right? And so it's kind of making us make our own table instead of asking for a seat. So I'm there with you. That's why I started Jet Set with Jeanette, because I didn't see any room for me. And I would go to these travel conferences and I would be one of the only Hispanics there. And I remember, Hugo, I interviewed you a year or two ago, and I was just talking about the travel industry. And I remember you specifically telling me, Jeanette, pave your own way, make a way. Because for me growing up, there wasn't person A, B, or C to say, oh, I want to be her. I mean, I had Samantha Brown as a woman, but she was blonde. She was, different. I mean, I couldn't relate on other levels. So yes, I agree with all that you are saying. Let's continue with the other questions. If at any time you want to answer, just raise your hand so we can know who would like to respond, so we can get to everybody. Let's see, how can we as Hispanic, Latino contributors to the travel industry, how can we make our voices more heard? Hugo and Jessica, and we're all talking about collaboration. What else can we do to make our voices heard, to get more opportunities, for ask the value that we are worth, right? Instead of just not getting enough as we are currently. Go ahead, Jessica.
I think is learning how media works, and mentoring other people. And I think that there's this misconception that, people became, known overnight, or people, and if you're not under the radar of the media and the press, like, nobody's going to know who you are. Or I think that a lot of people, they'll send an email, introducing themselves to someone and not hear anything back and give up. And, this business is not for the faint at heart. You have to keep knocking on doors and keep showing up. And I think that keep showing up, like, because I have a lot of people that come up to me and they're like, oh, I'm going to start a food blog, or I'm going to start a travel blog, or I'm going to do this. And they post twice and then they give up. And, this is not, a lot of people think this is an overnight thing. And yes, there is that 0.001% that become viral. But I think that for people that are starting, it's like being persistent and also doing a lot of networking, a lot of events, a lot of networking, and getting, getting under people's radar. It's like a never ending, it's a lot of work. It's a never ending process.
Thank you, Jessica. Hugo, did you want to say something to that?
Yeah, I think, to add to what Jessica said, nothing happens by accident. No one's going to tap us on the shoulder and say, Hugo, today's your day. Here are the keys to the kingdom. So we have a lot of passion, but we have to turn that passion into a strategy. And we really have to take a step back. We have to get on that figurative balcony so we can have a different view of where we are and then where we want to be. And in doing so, develop an action plan with a timeline in order to achieve it. It will take time, but it is within your grasp. Anything that we dream up, we can accomplish if we have the foresight of getting on that balcony and putting a strategic plan in order to accomplish it. That's one. Secondly, we need to be, and I think all of us need to be comfortable at being uncomfortable. We're often the only Hispanic Latino in the room. We're often the only person of color in the room. We're only the marginalized member of the community in the room. And while that often pins us in situations that are uncomfortable because we're automatically the ambassador for all Hispanic Latinos, regardless of background, it's also an opportunity to teach. It's an opportunity to build bridges. I often tell people I can try to answer that question, but I'm limited, right? I'm Peruvian American, so while I'm educated and experienced, there are certain things that I might not know the answer to, but I think I can find who does. So let's not miss the opportunity to build bridges, to educate those big companies that, yes, are going after our purchasing power, and let's take advantage of that, right? Let's take advantage of our position to lead them to water, and hopefully draw from that water from a business perspective, from a understanding the public perspective, and also really for our own equity, our own brand. That's an opportunity, and I think we could do it if we're strategic about it.
Awesome. I think Christina, then Alma had and Olga, I'm sorry, Olga. Go ahead, Olga. Because Olga's, yeah, go ahead.
I think also by recommending each other, like if you're working with a brand and you can recommend other in my case would be maybe other travel writers or bloggers that are Latinos, to like include more representation and maybe say this person do an excellent job, or maybe a tour company that is owned by Latino owners or anything like this. I feel that's what we need more of too. I think we should like make a list of people that work in the travel industry and try to recommend more each other rather than compete with each other. That would be an excellent form of collaboration and educating not only the brands, but also like everyone was saying before about the next generation as well. Because I try to always speak at schools, and when I speak at schools, I speak to minority kids because I feel it's more not only you're changing their life, but they see someone that looks like them that is doing something that maybe they never thought of, and you can inspire them like that to maybe pursue a career in travel.
Amazing. Christina, and then we'll go to Alma.
I just wanted to thank you for bringing this panel together. I am completely humbled and grateful to have met this incredible panel of people that are Hispanic Latinos from all over, and it really reinforces my need to continue to grow the Latino components within myself. I find as I've grown, I've dismissed or maybe kind of ignored that part. But today, as always, I've always wanted to emphasize and identify as a Hispanic speaking Ecuadorian, and that our views as a community matter. So, and also as a media person, today I have all these incredible people that I've met, and I welcome you to reach out to me to any sort of collaboration. We're all in the business of storytelling. There's incredible stories of travel within this incredible group that we've spoken and shared. So please reach out to me on LinkedIn and see how we can collaborate, because content is king and there's a lot of content here.
Absolutely. Alma?
I think that, I agree with everybody who's spoken so far. And I do think that, we need to invest in ourselves. And what I mean by that is that we literally, we have to take the money out of our own pocket to attend to conferences. I know, Jeanette, you and I met, and Monica met at a conference last year. All of these trips that look glamorous on Instagram, a lot of these people, if you're not represented by a brand, you have to dig out of your own pocket to fund the travel. So initially, especially for me, as I'm making this career change from corporate events into travel, I have to decide, when am I going to quit my day job, or how am I going to quit my day job to fund this career? But you literally have to take the money out of your own pocket. If you don't, if you're not at the point where you have a venture capitalist who's going to support you, or a lot of us don't come from wealthy families that are going to fund our TV shows and, give us the money to travel around the world. So, I'm not going to ask my Theo to, lend me $5,000 to go around the world or whatever it is. But you really, at the end of the day, you have to decide what's right for you, but you have to invest in yourself. And that means taking the money out of your own pocket and, skipping a few meals, making sacrifices to get to your goal.
We can ask our Theo, but he may not have it.
Monica, you had your hand.
Yeah, I think one simple thing that we can all do too is look at the stuff that we're already using. Like, so I do on camera stuff for my show, and I do a lot of outdoor stuff. So looking at the brands for the tent and things like that. And I know I've done that with like women-owned companies, but like opening that up and looking at Latino-owned companies or who they're donating to, like Subaru gives back to animals in national parks, so I like them, things like that. And looking at the companies that we work with and what they do behind the scenes as well, and representing those companies and building them up. I think that can help, especially if they're smaller companies that are just getting started and they're Latino owned.
Amazing, guys. We're slowly coming to an end. We have about 15 minutes left. This has been such an amazing conversation. And I hope this is part one of many other parts of discussions, because this is just so incredible and so necessary. So one of the next questions I'll ask is, what recommendations do you have for the travel and tourism industry and travel brands as a Hispanic travel leader? And whoever wants to go first, just feel free to raise your hand. Okay, Jessica.
Not to be lazy. I think that a lot of them have their list of media people, and I live in Washington, D.C., and a lot of tourism boards, like they'll have these lunches, and I'll go to this lunch and I'm like, oh my God, this person hasn't written in like 3 years. Like, she no longer has a blog. She's just here for the free lunch. So everybody's laughing because you know what I'm talking about. But but I think that media needs to be, PR companies need to be and go into different spaces, right? I think that not to be so blinded by numbers. I think a lot of people are like, oh, you have to have 100,000 followers. And, and I say it from my own experience, having published Dining Traveler Guide to Puerto Rico, sending books out to influencers. And, I had a person with 2,000 followers. She posted about my book and I got like 10 sales. And then somebody who's like a celebrity, she posted about the book. I got 0 sales in. So it's not the quantity of your followers, but it's like, how do they convert, and, being able to show that value. So I think that public relation firms need to think outside the box, and also think about, for me, like, I've done, some marketing work in the background. I want to get people from different backgrounds because it's going to make my reach much bigger. If I'm getting 5 people that look the same and act the same from the same area, they probably have the same amount of the same type of followers or readers. So my reach is not going to go that big. So that would be my advice for the travel industry, is to think outside the box and not to be so fixated on numbers.
Abby, what's your take?
I was just tapping on the chat. I like, that's the perfect opportunity, right? The tourism industry, those old school PR roadshows, like you're talking about, with the little, glass of wine. Like, let's change stuff. Like, we got our roofs shaking up, like our ground is changing. So let's rebuild it right. And having this coalition of us here and point each other for projects, helping each other with content and promoting. Yeah, I think that this is going to be incredible. And then we can change things. And sometimes we're going to have to get our hands in through hard stuff like politics, and, just get together, because like, if we don't push our voice and to those things, if we don't show up in those meetings, if we don't try to organize and get together, we won't be able to. So we need to get to know, and thank you, Jeanette, for this opportunity to get us together and us to know each other, because we didn't before. So we need to get involved, and we need to get unified and having a strategy, like Hugo said, Otherwise, we just scatter around. And let's funnel that passion that we all have to a good cause by being organized.
Absolutely. We have Fredalina and then Joe next.
I believe, I mean, this sounds like a common thing to say, but action speaks louder than words. Sometimes people get so hyped in conferences and virtual chat because it's a group atmosphere. Yeah, we're gonna do this, yeah, we should collaborate. But when the time comes, then the action was the action. So let's not get caught up in trying to look good and sound good. It's not gonna help no one. But let's start saying, you know what, like he said, like Hugo said, strategy. But a strategy takes bodies, unity, and gifts. We all have different gifts. We all have different journeys. We are not like, yeah, we are Hispanic, yeah, we are Latino, but we come from different backgrounds, different journeys, different families. So it just really, because I'm new to the travel industry. I've been, going to conferences. I spent a lot last year. My background is not in the travel, it's different. So I'm more like geared towards action. If I don't see action, I move forward and I move to the next action, because it's really gonna hold us back. And we're just getting caught up with the speech. It's like a beautiful speech, but nothing's happening. And that's not gonna work for nobody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now we'll go
I'd love to add to that.
Okay, we'll go with Joe and then we'll come to you, Cindy.
So really quick, collaboration, I got to go back to that because I think that's key, and also thinking outside the box, right? So a lot of us, focus on travel specifically, but some of us don't. For example, myself, my emphasis is Mexican soccer, and Mexican soccer's play everywhere around the world. So, for example, if someone wanted to collaborate with me, one of the things that actually I even spoke to Jeanette about this is that I would want to send somebody out to a stadium or to a place where one of these Mexican players play, so actually they can get a feel like of where that Mexican player is playing at, what is that city like, what are the things to do, in case people want to go and watch that player play there. If somebody wants to go watch Mexico play, let's say, for example, in Dallas, what do you do in Dallas? So we did a little package like that in San Antonio, right? So we went around the Alamo and around a bunch of different places in San Antonio. Is it truly connected to soccer? No, but it's connected to travel. And for a lot of the people that work in the travel industry, we have to look for opportunities to work with other people that are not necessarily part of the same industry, because sometimes that's where we get an opportunity to actually create even more content, and also be open to just negotiating. And I know that sometimes, like, we all got to eat, right? We all got to make money. But at the end of the day, sometimes we get a lot more by creating content for other people than by asking them to pay us X amount of dollars. So I think that's one of the advice that I would give a lot of the people here.
Thank you, Joe. We'll go with Cindy.
Yeah, I would just add to what Fredalina and Joe were saying. It's so important to have relationships and networks, and not only that, but to extend those relationships and networks to others, right? It's important to have these professional associations, but are those professional associations seeing us for who we are, right? Do those professional associations have conversations about diversity, inclusion, equity, accessibility? Does the media, do our organizations have such conversations? And if not, are we asking them? Are we challenging them? Are we bringing this to the forefront as well, right? And, to add to Joe's, I love where Joe's going. We don't have to be in a specific niche of our industry to be able to collaborate. I have worked with several different organizations creating internship programs, from what does the behind the scenes of the museum industry look like to HR internships, right? And so it's being able to not only create extensive professional networks that are solid on fundamentals that are important to you, but also affording access to that network to our interns, to our students, to our colleagues, to our friends, to our families, right? And just expanding access as well.
Amazing. Go ahead, Tina Beth.
I have one extra point to make. I think also the time is now, because with the pandemic, with all the Black Lives Matter protests going on, now is the opportunity, because a lot of organizations, a lot of companies are I don't want to say they're diving into diversity and inclusion, but they are, because I hate to say this, it's almost seems like it's in fashion right now. You know what I mean? So a lot of companies are trying hard to figure out, oh my gosh, we haven't been inclusive all this time. We haven't been diverse. Let's do this now. And we can use that to our advantage if we do, in fact, act as a group, like Federina was saying, and not just have this rah-rah panel and not do anything. So I think now, just because the opportunity is there, that if we do strategize and we use that opportunity to reach out to these companies and let them know that we're around and we actually do the work and do something about it, I think we have a very good opportunity in front of us that we can do something with.
Amazing. Does anyone want to have the last word? We're going to wrap up soon. Anybody? I don't know. You guys both. Okay.
I just want to say you're awesome and thank you so much for doing this. All of us are leaving. All of us are leaving with a big open heart and really appreciate you bringing all of us together. Thank you, Jeanette.
My pleasure. Can I just say that you all are showing up, like just by being here, it might sound like a rah-rah, but you showing up with your time, with your voice, with your expertise, and you may be inspiring people who are watching right now or who will watch the recording later. So also give yourselves a pat on the back because you're all phenomenal. So thank you for being here. Anyone else want to say anything before we wrap? Okay, Fredelina.
No, I want to say like, thank you for like actually doing this. Like you took the effort and the time to get us together. And when I see somebody who's taking the lead in the sense of just uniting us, and if you know, blessed if you could continue doing it, like you're going to get my support. And I hope that you see what you created, all of us, and how you put us together. And I really appreciate you doing that. And you did an amazing job, Jeanette.
Thank you. You're going to make me cry. This is what makes me happy. This is my purpose. It's not about me. It's about everybody. So thank you. I appreciate it. And this is just the beginning. Like I said, hopefully this will open doors for all of us, collaborations, partnerships, and friendships, etc. So thank you. Thank you for the words. Anyone else want to say anything? We have about 3 more minutes. Go ahead, Jessica.
Really quickly, you know, I would love to see this evolve into like a Slack channel or a Facebook group, whatever is easier. I'm trying to get more into Slack. So, but either way, whatever is most convenient for everybody, because I think that if there's an opportunity that comes up or, you know, we can post it there, or if we're looking for people to collaborate with, it would be great to keep the momentum, as Tina Beth said.
All right. Anybody else want to say any final words? Nope. Okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you so much. You are a prime example of what it looks like when we share our partnerships and our platforms to empower others. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Cindy.
And thank you, everybody. Gracias, obrigada, for being here, for being vulnerable, for being open, for being real. And, you know, we need to listen to each other. You know, companies need to listen. We all need to listen. And this was a great opportunity for us to all listen. And I learned a lot, you know, and thank you. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you, everyone. And this will be recorded and it will be posted on the Travel Unity website. You will also be emailed the link, you know, in a couple of days, so you can share. And you'll also have each other's emails. So hopefully this is just the beginning of more to come. So with that, thank you, everyone, for your time. Joe, Alma, Hugo, Tina, Beth, Christina, Angel, Jessica, Monica, Gabby, Cindy, Fredelinda, and Olga, whose cell phone died. Thank you guys, everyone. So this is just the beginning. And with that, we're going to wrap up today's panel. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.